Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to today's shelved mini episode. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. So we got a couple of reviews for you today on our mini episode. Before we jump into that though, we're going to talk about our script that we're going to be discussing this Friday. And it's going to be kind of a comic book filled week because I got a comic book movie review today, as long as another one. And we're going to be talking about a comic book episode on Friday, because on Friday we are going to be discussing, it doesn't exactly have a title, so because it was written under a kind of working title, I guess to keep it secret. But we're just going to call it Batman versus Superman Asylum, or Batman/Superman Asylum. This was a script written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who has written a couple scripts that we've covered on the show, including X-Men. He's a writer who's done a lot of work that has, he sold it, and then a lot of it never kind of happened. But he was the writer on Spider-Man. He was the writer on X-Men. He was the writer on this script. He also wrote movies like Seven. He's been around a while, and he's done a lot of stuff. And a lot of the scripts we have, especially he's done a lot of superhero scripts that just kind of never happened or were changed drastically in the case of Spider-Man. So we got another one from him, Batman Superman Asylum. The script was just under the title Asylum, so that's kind of what it says on there. But as far as I know, none of this has anything to do with the Batman v Superman movie that ended up coming out. It was written in, I think, 2004 or maybe 2002, and I think it was supposed to come out in 2004, but eventually was scrapped. And kind of the one thing that maintained, I believe, was Christian Bale. He was kind of involved through a lot of projects until Batman Begins happened, and thank God that it did. Because Batman Begins is one of the best Batman movies. I mean, probably the best Batman movie in my opinion. But yeah, so that's the script we're going to be talking about on Friday. It's going to be just called Asylum, but it's Batman, Superman, and this was Warner Brothers' attempt at bringing back both franchises, because they were, at the time, it was post Batman and Robin. Batman Begins hadn't happened yet. We were post Superman 4. Superman Returns hadn't happened yet. And they're like, how can we bring these characters back? And this was their attempt. And the only hint you get of this movie ever existing is in I Am Legend. There's the billboard for a Batman with a Batman Superman logo on it, and that was supposed to be subtle advertising for this movie. And obviously it never came around, and then we got the one that we got in 2016, which, But that's the script we're going to be talking about on Friday. I don't know a lot about it. All I've heard is that it was too dark, which is surprising considering what we got with Batman v Superman. But I've only read a little bit of it so far, and it's definitely a little dark in the first 30 pages, but nothing completely out of the realm of what I've seen so far. But we'll talk more about that on Friday. So I'm going to get into the two movie reviews for the movies I saw this weekend, and I'm going to save the best one for last. But the first one I'm going to talk about is Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales. This movie was aggressively average, which is the same phrase I used to describe On Stranger Tides. Now, I know most people will praise the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and not many people will acknowledge the sequels. They're like, those just are garbage and blah, blah. I'm on the fence that I love the first three movies. I think it's a solid trilogy. The second one might actually be my favorite. I'll always say the first one is the better movie. It's better made. It's a tighter story, and it's great. But the second one has a lot of fun moments for me, and I kind of love the down ending. And it's like the three-way sword fight in the second one is one of my favorite moments in the franchise. And the third one, it's a little boring in the beginning, but I really love the end of that movie, and I love the story of Beckett kind of having Davy Jones under his thumb and that whole conclusion to that. I love the first three, and then so when the fourth one came out, I saw it in theaters, and I was like, oh, this is just... I don't think the character of Jack Sparrow carries the movie as the main character. I think he's better as a side character. And honestly, Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley's story is the story that pulled us through those movies. And that's kind of the same thing with this one. They do bring back Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, but Keira Knightley literally has like 30 seconds of screen time, and Orlando Bloom has maybe 5 minutes of screen time at best. And it's at the beginning and the end, and it's basically pointless to even have that story in there, but it was just a way to... It's just a way to give those characters closure, because it doesn't actually contribute much to the plot. But most of the characters in this one are forgettable. Even Jack is kind of forgettable for the most part. We've seen it many times before. Johnny Depp is great at this character, but in this one, there's just not a lot for them to do. Like, the first half of the movie is extremely boring. I will say this one does improve on Stranger Tides in some way. I will say On Stranger Tides felt like a small movie. Like, hey, we have less of a budget. Let's just do what we can do. And that one ended up making $1 billion. So, of course, they were going to make another. And this one, like, they do up the ante in action. It doesn't feel as small. It does have a little more epic scale. But unfortunately, you just don't care about any of the characters. They kind of write off some things from the end of the fourth one, and it's so aggressively average. There are some decent action scenes, and Javier Bardem as like the ghost captain, I really like him. I like his crew and everything, and I just wish they did more with it. Like, he's a villain if they're going to make another one. He's the villain they should have kept around for 2 movies the same way they did with Davy Jones, because I feel like there was so much more that could have been done with him. But it is what it is, and the movie's just okay. Like, if you're a Pirates fan, you'll probably find some enjoyment out of it. But overall, it's definitely on the weaker side of that franchise. Honestly, after I saw it, I was thinking I might actually enjoy the fourth one more. But I think on a second viewing, I might like this one a little more. I do want to give it another shot on Blu-ray. I am a completionist, so I will own them all at some point. But Pirates of the Caribbean, just okay. I give it like a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but not running out to see it again anytime soon. Now, the second movie I saw, which is the one that everybody is talking about this weekend, is Wonder Woman. And I'm on record saying that all of the DC movies have been terrible. I had little expectations for this movie because of the track record, but I was saying as it was coming up, like, oh, the trailers actually look pretty good. So maybe this one will be the one to actually be good. I don't want to say change my mind, because nothing will change my mind on those other movies. They're just bad movies. But Wonder Woman was a complete surprise. It was fantastic. I really loved Wonder Woman. I have some minor gripes. There was way too much slow motion, and they used a lot of action moves over and over again. Like, hey, we have this cool action move, or like what we think is a cool action move, so why don't we do it a lot? And it just kind of like every time you see it, you're just kind of like, oh, you're just going to keep doing that? And it kind of makes the fight choreography a little stale, but there are some amazing action scenes in this movie. The No Man's Land sequence and the action sequence that comes shortly after are incredible. I like the end fight, but there is some weird editing throughout the movie, which is another one of my gripes. Like, we see her in the No Man's Land sequence, and she has no sword. She goes out there with her shield and her whip, and then we cut to another action scene later, and her sword is just on her back. And it's like, you didn't see anyone carrying the sword. If she had the sword, why didn't she bring it out there? And it's one of those things where you can just assume off screen somebody gave her the sword or she picked it up, and it's just one of those things where what happened there with the editing, and maybe because the sword wouldn't look as heroic in the No Man's Land sequence. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of my minor gripes. And it's another origin story, which everyone complains like, hey, we don't want an origin story. But honestly, I don't know a lot about Wonder Woman. And from a lot of people I've talked to, they don't know a lot about Wonder Woman. So this is one you definitely need an origin story for. And it was done really well. It didn't feel like a retread of any other movie. And it's a great movie for women and little girls, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad this movie exists. I highly recommend everybody seeing it. It's a great comic book movie, and DC finally got a win under their belt. I give it a solid 5 out of 5. I do feel like it might come down to like a 4 on a rewatch. I don't really deal in half stars, by the way. I live by the model of 1 star is it's complete garbage, 2 stars is it's like, it's bad, but it has some watchable moments. 3 stars is like, it's okay. 4 stars is it's really good. And 5 stars is like, this is an amazing movie. So that's kind of my scale there. But yeah, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman. I took my wife, and she is not a comic book fan really at all. But there's a couple she likes. She likes Iron Man. She likes The Dark Knight. But she loved Wonder Woman. She said she would watch it again, and that's not normally something she cares about doing. And it was just really good. I want to see it again, like right now. The music was great. You got that returning Wonder Woman theme. But I highly recommend Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins, she did an amazing job. And I never expected to like it as much as I did. I've never been a big Wonder Woman fan. Although, like, currently, like, their DC's been having a sale on Wonder Woman books. So if you use the digital apps at all, which I highly recommend. I have an iPad, and that's where I read a lot of my comics now. I do still buy a lot of physical comics, but generally just kind of the stuff I really want. I did go to a comic shop this weekend in my hometown called Got Comics, which is a great little store. They don't have like a ton of stuff, but if you're definitely looking for some recent stuff, and they do have some back catalogs and some figures and things, I do like the store mostly because it's 3 minutes from my house. But I picked up a couple volumes of some Spider-Man this weekend, so I picked up some comics. And but I did pick up some Wonder Woman stuff on this current DC sale on the app. And I picked up Superman and Wonder Woman from the New 52 because, I don't know, I really like the Superman and Wonder Woman romance aspect. And the writer really gets it right in those books. And I really love the art, which is something the New 52 did right for me, is they got a lot of great artists working on those titles. But yeah, I guess that's kind of all I really have to say about Wonder Woman. I wish I could go. I don't want to like go into spoilers or anything. I might have a Wonder Woman spoiler episode within the coming weeks just to get that covered. And I know a couple of my coworkers saw it, and the person I'm podcasting with has probably seen it. But that's going to be it for now. So stay tuned. We might do a spoiler cast for Wonder Woman because I think it's one worth talking about. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's mini episode. Be sure to check in on Friday for Batman Superman Asylum. And be sure to rate and review the show on iTunes. That really helps us. That's what's going to get us pushed in front of people, get us more viewers. I haven't had any new reviews for a while, and I always like to read them on the show. So I'm hoping to get some new ones there. I keep checking, but come on, guys. I know you're listening. Just give me a few reviews. You can do it right on your phone. Just search for the show. There's a reviews tab. You can just write it right on your phone, even if it's just a couple words. Even a rating. You can just go there and give it another 5-star rating. That'd be great. Currently, I'm a full 5-star show, so 5-star podcast over here, and I'm enjoying that. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram at Shelved Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, which our episodes post there. You can also find us on YouTube if you search Shelved. Now, my YouTube channel is my personal channel. I don't have like a Shelved Podcast channel. I'm thinking about just reworking my channel into a Shelved channel since I don't really use it for a lot of else. I used to do a lot of video game stuff that's still on there, but currently I'm only posting the podcast episodes. So maybe I'll rework that into an official Shelved YouTube channel. But all right, everybody, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out those social media links, and be sure to tune in Friday for Batman Superman Asylum.